Check. Yeah. YouTube, Twitch should work as well. So let us start with the stream then. Well, then let us start as usual. First of all, hello and welcome to Inspo Saturday's Bitcoin market analysis. As you know, I'm providing every Saturday a stream where I explain a little bit more in deep what's going on in the market. And of course, you can place your questions. Usually at the end of the stream, I take 10 to 15 minutes to answer your questions, depending on how many questions you are placing, of course. But let us make quick review what's going on in the market. That's the Coinbase chart right now. We can see that as expected, after I detected on FTX a rising funding rate plus an inflow of $200 million in stablecoin, that Sam is going to lift up while he is selling some spot. We will check that more in detail, but taking a look to the chart, I would say we will retest the 45K very soon. 200 million US dollars in stablecoin is a lot. So I don't think some people are saying, yeah, we are just making something like a head and shoulders. For me, that's not a head and shoulders. We will see. If we really dump afterwards, I would say we need to fail a 45K retest. But let us check what the remaining data is showing to us. Let us start maybe directly here. That's our weights ratio chart. The weights ratio is actually, like the name is telling you, weights ratio of the Bitcoin inflows to exchanges. So it's measuring actually how much of the inflows are related to whales, okay, their ratio. So if the ratio is very high, it's saying you that whales are sending a lot of Bitcoin. If, for example, we have detected an inflow of 10,000 Bitcoin and the whales ratio is very high, that means that the big part of this 10,000 Bitcoin are coming from whales. It's very trivial. It's not really a big thing, right? So let us check here. I mean, you remember January 13th. I missed this one. We had actually a dump of the daily weights ratio. It dumped to 0.329, and just few days afterwards, we formed what I tell that was a very strange accumulation. What they did, but they had, maybe I can show you that more in detail. It's better. You can say this year they just stopped to buy, so the price dumped a little bit and then they pushed up. The weights ratio was dumping, indicating that whales stopped to send Bitcoins to exchanges like a signal of preparation. So I would say it was very good coordinated. However, since then, we are maintaining a weights ratio above of 0.39, and that's actually something that's not wondering me, because I'm seeing a lot of distribution activity. But as you can also see here, you remember my streams and that days, I was mentioning that the weights ratio daily was too high for just something like a week. And what happened afterwards? We had our dump from 45, almost 45 to 35. And since then, we just lifted up a little bit. It was actually that was here again, um, just reaching almost 0.57, um, but always forming higher lows, indicating that they maintain a sell pressure, also indicating distribution. And since just a week, we have started to lift up again and touching here, for example, as we did March 23rd, a very high level again. So if that continues, that means that we are going to dump again, in my opinion. That's the interpretation of the whales ratio when whales are sending their tokens to exchanges. On the other side, we can see that's the yellow curve, that's the stablecoin reserves on exchanges, and the blue one, that's the total supply of stablecoins in the whole market. Okay, both are declining. That's not good. That's absolutely not good. The whales ratio just that's the whales ratio 30 days average. Um, Dumped, okay, and that, oh, well, it was falling, and that correlates with the price action, and it seems it's lifting up again. Okay, so we need to see what's happening in the next few days, but as I said in several times, to let me flip to bullish, I will see a retest of 45K, have a breakout there, hitting 46K and maintain above of this really key level of 45K. If it's 46 or 47, that would be absolutely nice, and that would show, if that's not a bull trap, okay, that would actually show a bullish signal that we can really go up even more, even if I know they didn't accumulate it. Okay, they are still distributing, but in the situation, in the global situation, the economy situation we are living right now, it's possible that they want to create an exit pump. That's usually historically as well, and that can happen. They don't need to accumulate. Okay, as you know, the market is mainly driven by derivatives. But let us check the hourly view of the waste ratio chart. We can see here much better what's going on with the stablecoins, for example. Okay, not to mention, if we go back to the daily one, what's happening here. Okay, in the last since I would say 22nd, the net flow is positive, indicating more inflows than outflows. But to be honest, that's the net flow. It's showing the whole in and outflows. It's not separating between centralized exchanges for spot in derivatives. It's the total volume, okay, the total inflows and outflows. So if we have a positive net flow indicating more inflows, we don't know at the moment if these inflows are related to derivatives. That's neutral. We have to see if that's going to go to future trading for longs or shorts, for example. But in case it's for spot market, it's almost clear they want to distribute these spots. So, but what we can see here as well is that, yeah, just March 22nd, again, 22nd, okay? So, just to make clear, the 22nd something happened that let flip a little bit the behavior related to the market. So the stablecoin supply is declining since then. At the same moment, we have detected a positive net flow, indicating more inflows in bitcoins to the exchanges. That's very interesting. And at the same moment, we have here the yellow curve, the reserves of stablecoins in centralized exchanges. And so here it's maintaining, actually, if you can see, it's still a little bit in a downward trend. And usually if you see a stablecoin supply declining while people are selling, that's ultra bearish, because what does that mean? What does it mean when the stablecoin supply is declining? The stablecoin supply is indicating and showing you the whole total volume of stablecoins and the whole market. If it's declining, that means that whales or traders or stablecoin holders are sending their stablecoins back to Treasury. Tether, USDC, BUSD, whatever. And the treasuries are burning these stablecoins, reducing the supply of stablecoins due of a lack of demand. A lack of demand means we have less people trading with stablecoins in the market. That's not bullish at all. That's something I try to mention sometimes, because that's really a crucial thing. Okay. However, we still have a lot of stable coins in the market. Okay, but it's something that we should have in mind, and that's indicating that something is happening in the market. That's not a very good and bullish signal when the stablecoin supply is reducing, and also when the stablecoin reserves on exchanges are not lifting up, or just maintaining a level, going a little bit up, then down again, and so on and so forth. Also, if we check here, we can see much more green than red, also indicating we have more inflows than outflows to the exchanges. But just to repeat, that's indicating more inflows to outflows in general to all exchanges, not separating now between spot and derivatives. We can see also here that's our 30 hours average of this weights ratio. It maintains a very high level. Right now it's declining. Okay, we can see it's declining, so the sell pressure is reducing right now. Something that's okay, because I can imagine that we are going to lift up to retest the 45K. Many will interpret that as something very bullish. Okay, we failed to dump afterwards like we did in the last weeks. I would be very, I would pay attention, and I wouldn't jump into any risky trade, actually. Be careful if you are trading with futures. I would recommend really to trade with low leverage. This chart here is only showing you Bitcoin inflows to exchanges, to spot exchanges, not related to derivatives. And on the other side, the red and the green line or curves are showing you the red one, stablecoin outflows, and the green one, stablecoin inflows. So also here, just to explain a little bit what that means, I'm trying just to bring some more educational stuff now in my stream, because you are making so many basic questions. I try just to give you some input, and hopefully we can have all the same understanding of the charts I'm providing. We have here Bitcoin inflows to centralized exchanges, spot exchanges, not derivatives. And the interesting thing is, since the 22nd, we are getting every day 3,000. We have here 3,200 Bitcoin, 3,160 Bitcoin, 3,100 Bitcoin. That was an exception with almost 5,400 Bitcoin. 3,000 Bitcoin, 3,000 Bitcoin. And that's very interesting because of the discussion about the lunar big buy announcement to spend, I don't remember now, 2 billions or 3 billions in Bitcoin, and to avoid OTC or whatever, they want to buy that directly on Binance. Well, maybe that's a coincidence that since the 22nd, we are getting every day 3,000 Bitcoin. If you make your calculation how much that is, it's almost 130 million US dollars per day. It's also very interesting that they said, the Luna CEO, that they are going to spend almost 125 millions per day buying Bitcoin. So it looks like they had an agreement, and in my opinion, that's my personal opinion, they are using this big purchase of Bitcoin related to the UST to generate some FOMO. Okay? Because I can see here we are getting every day this amount of Bitcoin. And just to be honest, if he is going to buy 3,000 Bitcoin every day with low inflows, we would go up like a rocket because we have a lack of demand anyway. And you see the volume is very, very low at the moment. So yeah, that would match actually. We can also see here that the stable coins inflows and outflows, you can see here, for example, we had more outflows than inflows. Actually here as well. Maybe here more neutral, but it looks like at least for centralized spot markets that nothing big is happening. Okay, I don't see, also here I don't see big purchases. But let us go to another chart. That's the FTX chart right now, but let me check the BTC future trading chart. Takes just a moment. Okay, that's a different one. Give me just another second. Stablecoin inflows, and yeah, that's this one. And we have here a big chart with different indicators. The red curve is the funding rate. Okay, the funding rate is showing you the demand for longs or shorts. So it's the funding rate rising. It means the traders are demanding more longs. If the funding rate is dumping or just declining, like we can see here, that means that traders are demanding more shorts positions than long positions. At the same time, we have here the green curve. That's actually, let me check, the estimated leverage ratio. It's still too high in my opinion. And the yellow one, it's the open interest. How many contracts at the moment are opening or just closing. And we have here these two charts. This here is showing you the stablecoin in and outflows related to derivative exchanges. And here we can see the Bitcoin inflows or outflows also related to derivative exchanges. So to give you an example why this is useful. If you see a stablecoin inflow like we had here, 250 million US dollars just few hours ago, and then you see the funding rate is rising like it did, it means, for me at least, that's the first signal of, oh, stop. Someone is, it seems, sending 250 millions to derivative exchanges and he is demanding longs. So he's expecting, at least expecting, a bullish price action. But at the same moment, just an hour later, it's almost the same, not the same, but he just we can detect here an outflow of 170 million of stablecoins as well. So it seems they prepared 250 millions. We have a gap between in and outflow, so the net flow between both is maybe 60 or 70 million. 70 million are still in the market, but it seems they used these 250 millions to trigger something like a pump, or just to lift up, just to trigger some retailers to jump in, for example. And big part of their long contracts, they close them again and take some money out of the exchanges again. So the funding rate stopped here. Okay, you can see it's almost in the moment when they started to take some stablecoins out of the exchanges, the funding rate stepped. Okay, it's stalling right there. The open interest is lifting up a little bit while the leverage ratio is declining. Today we had in the morning we had the big Bitcoin outflow from derivative exchanges, almost 3,200 Bitcoin, and since then we had, well, here 1,500 Bitcoin inflow. So, but since then it declined a lot. In my opinion, here, for example, you can see it matches. Someone took over and they started to use Bitcoins and stablecoins just to go short and to start, yeah, to distribute and to make double gains. Okay, it's interesting what's happening, and at the moment I will show you much more because I can detect who is holding or maintaining the price level at the moment while they are distributing with CBDs. Let us check here the latest, the Kingfisher liquidation map of FTX to see if they could generate some more shorts. If so, we should have some. No, they didn't. We should have here much more volume, liquidation volume, but as you can see, they didn't. Okay, it's not really big here. It maintains very low. We have a long liquidation cluster here between 43.5 and 43, but even high leverage, we have here some high leverage future longs as well at 44.3 and short at 44.6. So in case they pump to 44.6 to 45.2, they would wreck all these late shorts, I would say, or high leverage shorts at least. We need to see what's going to happen there. Let me check. That's miners. Miners are, in my opinion, not showing any sell-off. Okay, they are declining their reserves, but it's stabilizing since the beginning of March, so nothing big happening here. We can see here, and that's another interesting chart. That's a new one. That's the chart of reserves. Also something that's a basic, but you have to understand how that works, because this chart is indicating in what conditions the market is right now. Of course, we have the Bitcoin price in the top. The mid chart is showing you the stablecoin in Bitcoin reserves on derivative exchanges. And we have here the stablecoin in Bitcoin reserves of spot exchanges. Both charts are showing actually the same information but with different quality. Why? I will explain you. If you have here, for example, the rose curve is the spot Bitcoin reserves on derivative exchanges. It's declining. What does that mean? Traders are buying Bitcoin on derivative exchanges. Okay, the reserves are declining. If we check, for example, the stablecoin reserves, we can see that the stablecoins are rising. The reserves on exchanges are rising. But I mean, for derivatives, this chart is interesting, but nothing where I would say that's absolutely interesting and it helps me for a strategy. But this one is for me the key. Why? The stablecoin reserves on exchanges are declining. Usually, what happens? When would the stablecoin reserves on exchanges decline? Spot exchanges, okay? Well, when you sell, for example, your asset on Binance, you get stablecoins for that. Or Ethereum or Bitcoin, it depends of the pair, of course, what you are trading. But if you want to sell your assets and maybe leave the market, what are you doing? Of course, you are selling your Bitcoins, for example, for USDT, for Tether, or maybe BUSD. So the reserves are declining. That's something usual, and that could give us the first sign that something is happening with the market. That's a weak sign, actually. As long the Bitcoin reserves on exchanges are declining at the same moment, it means that Bitcoin demand in these exchanges is rising. So people are buying Bitcoins, and so, of course, the Bitcoin reserves are declining. We have to be very careful here because we see it's declining. We have internal operations between exchanges. So sometimes we are getting some Bitcoins, their reserves rise a little bit, but it's an internal operation. Also, Binance, for example, they have different cold wallets where they have some Bitcoin reserves. When they make such internal transactions, sending from cold wallet to the exchange cell wallet, for example, it appears in the reserves then, and you would wonder and say, okay, what's happening here? But the interesting thing here is that the stablecoin reserves on exchanges is declining while the Bitcoin reserves on exchanges since the March 20th. So if we go in, that's the daily view. If we go in the hourly view, we can see again March 22nd was the day where the Bitcoin reserves on exchanges have started to rise. Again, March 22nd. It seems March 22nd was a very interesting day. At the same time, the stablecoin reserves on exchanges were very stable, and also, since the 22nd, we have started to decline. In my opinion, that's not bullish at all. It means for me, somebody is selling his Bitcoins, so they are just selling on Binance, for example. This Bitcoins appears now as Binance reserves, and they are leaving Binance with stablecoins, so the reserves on Binance related to stablecoins are declining. Now, if we think back of what I showed you about what is going on with the stablecoin supply, because at the same time the stablecoin supply is declining, that means to me, those guys are sending the stablecoins back to Treasury and are exiting. That would be worst case. But the strange thing is, we are in a bullish price action. The price is lifting up. But it is how it is, and I can explain why that happens. Let us go further what's going on with those wallets that owns 1,000 to 10,000 coins, 10,000 bitcoins, related to what is happening to those wallets related to retailers. We can see, and I have mentioned that in several times, since February 11th, these guys are reducing their wallets. That means if, for example, this entity owned 5,320,000 Bitcoin February 11th, now they have 5,220,000 Bitcoin. Okay, so that's 100,000 Bitcoin less related to these entities. At the same time, if you check what retailers are doing, they are buying big. These guys are just buying as much as they can. And that's also very interesting because we are not talking this, I mean, retailers are not buying all this 100,000 Bitcoin, just to be clear. But they raised their wallets by 30,000 Bitcoin. That's 30%. That's really big, in my opinion. So let us go forward. What is happening right now with the market? You see here the CVDs. You will see here that's the price of Bitcoin. You have here the CVD of the BTC USDT pair of Binance. So we have here the aggregated CVD spot. So this chart is showing you what all other remaining exchanges are doing. We have here the CVD of aggregated coin margin contracts, so future contracts. What I told you before, you can use your Bitcoins as collateral, for example. And you have here the aggregated CVD for stablecoin margin contracts, also futures. The interesting thing is Binance have started again while FTX was lifting up the price with futures and starting to distribute. I can show you that. Binance, they triggered, it seems, retailers, and Binance have started to rise their buy pressure. That's what the CVD is showing you. They are buying. At the same time, if you check what happened after 45K aggregated CBD, so showing you all other exchanges, including Binance. Here's Binance, Bitfinex, FTX, ORCEX, Huobi, whatever. They have started to distribute. They are distributing. They are selling, while the price maintains relatively stable, right? How is that possible? Well, if you check these two here, the CBD's aggregated coin margin contracts and stablecoin margin contracts, you see why they start, for example, why they are just distributing, they have started to lift up. So for them, it seems they went long, 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 because they knew they are going to lift up the price. Right now, we can see that Binance is buying while the most of the other exchanges are selling, while coin margin contracts are taking profit, while stablecoin futures are taking profit as well. What happens? The price is declining right now. That's what's happening here in the market, and that's a little bit frustrating me because they are using future contracts to stabilize the price while they can distribute. So everyone that doesn't know that and he checked just the price action and sees, okay, they are failing to dump. Okay, we failed the 45K, but right now that looks like accumulation. They are accumulating, generating more FOMO, but that's not the truth. That's not true. They are not accumulating. They are distributing. They are distributing what they bought here and here. That's what they are doing. Nothing else. So it's when people are asking me, hey, Inspo, why are you not bullish? because the data doesn't show me any solid bullish trend. That's what I see. It's not my bias. I don't care. I did a lot of money with longs. I did a lot of money with shorts. Of course, sometimes they wrecked me. That's fine. That's part of the game. But if you start to check and to understand how they maintain the price, it's not driven by spot. They are selling. They are not buying, and that's the big problem. We can go further. Okay, that's a liquidation map. Actually, they are showing you here, for example, we were declining. You remember that was at 44.2, and then they started to lift up again, and they liquidated late shorts here. But the most interesting charts, for example, is also here. Let me bring you the 1 hour time frame. So what are we saying here? That's the Bitcoin price. That's the Fear and Greed Index. We have here the aggregated open interest, so for all exchanges. Whales versus retail delta by ORCEX. Nothing that's really useful. I just have that there. I don't know actually for what. We have two indicators here. That's the top traders long and short accounts and the top traders long and short positions on Binance. So usually top traders long and short positions and accounts, if you see, for example, these are declining while the funding rate is, for example, positive, so showing some demand, that means these guys know the price is going to dump, or at least they are expecting some bearish price action. And we have here the funding rate, the aggregated funding rate. The blue line is showing you the real funding rate, so what's happening, and the violet one is showing you the forecasted one, but it's not really accurate. So we can see that the demand for right now, the demand for longs is rising at the moment. We know that because I showed you my other future trading chart. But yeah, you can see, for example, these guys are in declining. They declined here a lot as well. So it seems these guys are flipping to bearish at the moment. Could be an indicator. We have to see. But the most interesting part here, and I think I have really to switch to the 1 day. Yeah, 1 day it's maybe too much. Let us make the 4 hours time frame. We know that we have several times we have retested the 45K, 44.5 for example. And we can see here a pattern. For example, fear and greed. And also with the Binance top accounts, top traders accounts and positions. Every time when we lift up to the 45K to retest, the fear and greed index was showing greed. At least it was almost neutral. We had a score of 54, between 48 and 54. What happened afterwards? We dumped, or at least we retraced, for example. Just a few days afterwards, it happened again. What happened? We dumped. Then, just a few weeks afterwards, it happened again. We lifted up, we retested, we failed with greed again above of. We were until yesterday with an index of 47. Now we have 51. And we can see here also, for example, the top traders' positions are declining. The long positions are declining, indicating they are changing their sentiment to bearish. Also here, if you see the accounts, now it seems they are lifting up a little bit, but we know why. However, that's not looking very bullish again. and at the same time the open interest is rising. So it seems, that's my interpretation, that 45K is a very important level to trigger retailers. If that's the case, we don't need to pump up to 50K. We maintain 45K to distribute and then dump again, because we will accumulate more longs, because they are going to buy more bitcoins, and so on and so forth, something that I'm seeing also in the data. So we should have that in mind as well. I will show you a little bit more charts, because every time when I'm tweeting, people are asking me, hey Inspo, what does that mean, and so on and so forth. Well, this chart doesn't have any relevance today, or at least not a big one. The only one is that's the trading bot chart that I have set up. That's provided by Harblock Capital. And it's very interesting to see some correlations. For example, the correlation between the trade bot of Binance and the trade bot of FTX, if you check, it's almost 1-to-1. And if you check some whale alerts, you will see that every time when we are going to pump up, FTX is sending USDT to Binance. Maybe just a coincidence, of course, but I don't believe in coincidence. But in my opinion, it seems both are very nice synchronized. Binance has the biggest volume as the biggest exchange related to crypto, so it makes sense for FTX, if they want, well, to manipulate a little bit the price action, to use a synchronized trading bots between both. And actually, if we take a look here, we had just a few hours ago, we had a pump a dump. It wasn't really a big one. It was at 44.2, and we lifted up just $130. It wasn't really big, okay? But it was like just lift up and down again. Why? Well, that was driven by bots, FTX and Binance again. And these guys are very active, very active. You can see here as well. It seems that FTX is the main driver of what is happening at the moment. Of course, you have here more correlations, no doubts. Yeah, we have OKEX here, Huobi here, Deribit here, Bitfinex here. It seems that Bitfinex bots are more correlated to Deribit and Huobi, and maybe also a little bit OKEX. But the trading bots of Binance and FTX are just a copy of. It's really insane what they are doing, in my opinion. And a follower, thanks for that actually, he told me about a Russian project that's KTB. These guys are working, that's the demo version at the moment. These guys are working on some indicators. They are not, they say on their website their indicators are accurate almost 80%. So, but what are these guys doing? Actually, this here is showing you actually the trade behavior of retailers. It seems the open interest right now it's not working because they are using raw data. Sometimes that happens. So at the moment it's early stage, but very interesting because sometimes that really works very fine. As soon as you see, for example, that that retailers are rising, for example, in expectations, something happens always. At the moment, it looks very calm. But someone just asked me about KTB. That I will talk to these guys. I will contact them because it looks very interesting what they are doing. At the moment, it's early stage. But sometimes it's very interesting what they show you. So for example, here, if you see, you have the long positions of top traders, future traders related to whales. That's the rose curve. And you have the retailers, the I would say the red curve. And you see, for example, whales have started here just to place their long positions, and retailers just with delay. So here indicating, okay, if these guys are going long right now, that means for me something is going to happen very, very soon. We are not just dumping straight down, and that's what happened here. So sometimes it's very useful. We can make a little check here as well. That's the CBDs of Coinbase, for example. It's showing you the delta of volume. Here the aggregated, so showing you what all exchanges together are doing, and that's what Coinbase is doing. So they have started to buy all the time, and they are also in a downward trend here, showing they are distributing, but very slowly. Much, if you check here, the aggregated curve is showing you that other exchanges are selling much more than Coinbase is doing right now. We see here Binance, as mentioned just before. Binance is buying right now, while every other exchange have started to sell again. We have Bitfinex. That's an interesting thing. They are maintaining. They just bought Bitcoin and are maintaining right now, living up a little bit, but nothing big. You see very low volume, so nothing very useful. FTX, and that's what I mentioned today in my tweet. You can see how aggressive they are playing. They are really playing very aggressive, really aggressive. They are pumping the market. Okay, they reached the top. They failed the 45K. Boom, dump. Then buy a little bit, not that much, and then use stable coins and derivatives to lift up the price. Dump. And that's what my friend Sam is doing. With bots, of course. Not only with bots, it seems, but yeah. FTX is driven the market right now. Famex, just distributing, just selling all the time, just selling all the time. We have here Gemini. Right now it seems declining a little bit, so showing the first distribution signals, but also these guys just have started to buy. And that's also very interesting because the timing where they started to buy correlates with other different exchanges. And I just can imagine that one whale is sitting on 5 different screens and just pressing 5 different buy buttons all the time. Absolutely not. So everything driven by bots, it seems. Bitfinex Perp, that's the USDT pair, nothing happening. Bitfinex is very quiet at the moment, in my opinion. Binance USDT Perp, also just maintaining the price. They are just stable, holding the longs, it seems, or whatever. Not happening, nothing. That's the USD Perp of Binance, the US dollar fiat. And this one is sometimes really very interesting because it seems they use the Binance USD pair on Perp also to bring the price they want, like they did here as well, again with FTX. I have showed you the trading bot. They just triggered the same signal, and you can see it was related to the USD pair of Binance. Well, and so on and so far. We have Bybit here, just a little bit rising, and OKX, well, declining a little bit, but nothing big right now. Selling. That's the whole thing. Now let me see if I have a little bit more information for you. Let us see what's happening here, for example. Do we have some walls? Yes. It seems Binance Futures have created here a wall. You can see we have a lot of different orders,